This is the class on entrepreneurship and innovation. And in this class, I will talk about the core of entrepreneurship. What is business? How does entrepreneurship start? And some of the core aspects of it. Uh, this is the course content that we have talked about. This course content uh, basically covers all the modules, and today we are going to focus on the core of an entrepreneur. What is a business? What's an enterprise? Different types of business, and what is it that really triggers entrepreneurship? So let us see what is the core of an entrepreneur or business. What I'm going to do is I'm going to also share with you some of the Hindi nomenclature. I cannot do anything beyond Hindi, but if you're from different parts of the country with different languages, try and understand what people call it, because while a good part of India uses English, there is a large majority that uses the local languages or Hindi in most part of North India and some of the other states as well. So enterprise, or Udyam as I would call it, it's about creating something new, an industry, a venture, something that it is also used for people who are enterprising in that sense. Okay? Venture, you can sort of look at, or it's called Upakram. Venture is something that you're venturing into, so it has the tone of risk associated with venture. And it'll be good to see, for example, Oxford Dictionary as to what it means for both of these terms. And the third one I do not want to miss out and share with you is a profession. And profession is, for example, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you're a doctor, you're even a practicing, let us say, you run an engineering practice. That is also a profession. So all of these basically are part of the entrepreneurship. So if you're doing anything other than creating a company, do not feel that you're not an entrepreneur. A lot of times people have this notion that if I have created a law firm, I'm not an entrepreneur. They are. Everybody who creates a something that is different, new, creates jobs, creates money, creates wealth, is actually part of the entrepreneurship. I would like to take a broader view of it. Okay, what does it do? It creates an industry. So you have sort of, for example, you've created a device and you want to manufacture the device for healthcare, for networking, for whatever. You've created a company and that company manufactures that device. That's an industry. You could be doing trade. For example, you buy and sell products and you build a large trading business. That is perfectly fine. Many of the large businesses today, if you take the Indian landscape, they started as trading business. Started as trading business. You'll be surprised. Many of the IT companies were distributors of computer manufacturers from United States way back in the 60s, 70s. Now today have become IT services companies. So trade is perfectly fine. So if you're building trade where you're buying and selling goods and services, that is perfectly fine. That's also part of entrepreneurship. Or you're providing a service. For example, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you're a doctor, and you provide a service, business process engineering, knowledge processing, all of that is a service. Everything is a business. Everything is a business. And any group of people who create business, in my opinion, are entrepreneurs. All of this is entrepreneurship. So we've understood what is the core of a business. To recap, it's if you create an industry, you create a trade, you create a service, all of that is fine. And whether it comes from an enterprise, it comes from a venture that you've started, or you're a professional, comes from there, all of that leads to business. And therefore, all of that, I would call it an entrepreneur. Okay. All of us are familiar with where Newton got the trigger, and that was an apple. So he got the idea of gravity from an apple. So I'm using that as a metaphor here for Entrepreneurship Core, and it is about the idea and the founder, both of these. Okay? So typically, if entrepreneur faces a problem or sees an opportunity which goes to, that is the trigger from where a business gets created, be it in industry. We talked about trade, we talked about service. All of this comes from opportunity or a problem that you face. To give you some examples, I live in Pune, and there is a chain of cotton clothes called Cotton King. Some of you have been to this part of the country, you'll probably be familiar with it. And this typically started as men's clothing. Cotton shirts is where they began. Now you get cotton trousers and everything. And I had an occasion to host the founder of Cotton King at TIE, which is an entrepreneurs organization. And he said when he was an executive, he never found good, comfortable, affordable cotton shirts, and that's what he likes. Living in this part of the world where you love cotton because of the weather, he never found it. So he said, okay, that was the problem I was facing, and I felt that everybody else faces that problem. So I decided to make cotton shirts, and out came Cotton King. Opportunity I would give straight from the software industry. I do recall a conversation with the founder CEO of TCS, and TCS used to be a distributor of a computer company called Burroughs way back in the 60s and 70s, a large manufacturer of mainframe computers that at that time, and there were 6-7 of them besides IBM. And he mentioned to the chairman of Burroughs Corporation that you can sell computers in India and you will make business out of it, but a bigger opportunity lies in leveraging the capability of India to write software for you, and that's a global impact you will have. This is way back in the 70s when software or offshore software not even known to anyone. So he spotted that opportunity where country could become a powerhouse of software, and that's what he propelled the company towards, not just the company, but also the industry. So sometimes people, entrepreneurs can sense an opportunity. Closer to today's time, mid-90s and beyond, when internet started to be used by business people, some people saw the opportunity that internet would be a place where a lot of information and knowledge would reside, and searching internet through browsing, through search engines would be an opportunity. Many of them did that, but the one that you know most is Google. So Google founders definitely saw that as an opportunity, and stuff like that. So there are many, stories like this. Bottom line is, if you feel a problem that you feel is so intense, that may be a trigger for, becoming an entrepreneur. Or if you have spot an opportunity now or later, that's also. And we'll talk about these as we go into this course. Okay. It's not just, all of us see problems, we see opportunities, but we don't do anything about it. That is not good enough. The desire has to be there to solve it. And that desire has to translate into a passion to the point where you don't see anything other than that problem and that the opportunity. And you're very restless to the point of not doing anything, in your life other than doing that. If you have all these four, there's a good chance that you will create a company or create a startup out of a problem that you're facing or an opportunity that you sense. And this is typically how, if you talk to a large number of entrepreneurs, they will talk either of them as the trigger or the genesis of the companies that they have created. Competence. It is one thing to sense a problem or sense an opportunity, face a problem, and then have all of this, the desire, the passion, and restlessness. Are you competent enough to take on that? Most entrepreneurs do not know that. And it is okay not to know that. If the other four are there, most of them jump into it and figure their way out as they go along. So you will never know if you're, are you a Bill Gates? Are you a Steve Jobs? Are you a Mr. Kohli from TCS? We don't know, but you possibly are. And therefore, it is okay to start. Competence is something we will know later. And there are ways to address competence, just in case you're not the the most competent person to grow the business that you created, there are ways to do that, and we'll talk about it. I want to now take the problem and opportunity outside. Suppose you're competent enough and you create this core and you start to build this company or this startup. And let's imagine a company that you've created around an idea, and we'll do a case study on that. Now you start to build your team. One by one, some of these things start happening. Restlessness goes away. The restlessness of a founder or founding team often is not at the same intensity with the core team when you hire people for doing different functions. Even passion disappears after a while. It's not that they are not competent, they don't do it, but all of this is not there at the same level. The desire to leave everything and solve that problem also sometimes goes away, and what remains is the opportunity and competence. And I'll give you an example. All of you are in colleges. Companies come for campus recruitment and they interview you for your competence. And all that you're looking for is an opportunity for your career. So when your business grows big, which is a good news, starting from very simple trigger all the way to where you're recruiting your teams, growing your teams, and all that people who are coming into your company are looking for is opportunity, and all that you're looking for is competence. Having said that, many times when you go through this journey of creating something with your two hands and your mind and your heart, and it starts growing, and then the restlessness, the passion, the desire starts to take different turns, founders try to keep the original DNA, and which is a good thing. How well are you able to maintain that is a challenge. It's a management challenge for all founders, all entrepreneurs, and it's something that we will talk about in this course. So that is typically how it happens. So we talked about business, we talked about trade, we talked about industry, we talked about profession and how it all happens. We also talked about core, which is problem and opportunity, and some of the characteristics that founders have in terms of desire, the passion, the restlessness, and they jump into it at the expense. Suppose, for example, tomorrow in your college, Google or Facebook or large Indian company comes and offers a very fat paycheck because you're very, very talented, engineer or talented graduate. Will you leave all that and create a company and go through the pain of building that company? Is an interesting, question to ask, and that's what we will discover in this Entrepreneurship and Ideas course. I want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneur's journey now, and I have divided it into two parts. One is the idea that we talked about, or ideation. That means creating that idea, taking that idea and building on it. And once you have dwelt on the idea sufficiently, then how do you accelerate to create that business? That I call is proof of concept. Then scale up. So you have an idea and you have ideated, you talk to your friends, your people that you trust, your professors, some senior industry leaders, your seniors from your college who are professionals now, your friends, your parents, your brother, whosoever is who can help you out, and you have done that and you created a company, and it's a small one. Obviously, it's possible that a couple of friends get together and create something in garage, and these stories you've heard several times. All of that, and you possibly create a minimum value product, and you are able to sell. You're able to sell a few of these solutions. And reason I'm using the generic term is because you could create for example, a service company. You can create a professional. You can create an industry where you're selling something which you can touch and feel. You might create a software that you sell. You might create a mobile app you can sell. You can create an e-commerce company where you're doing trading, basically online. You're a facilitator for online trading. You can create a marketplace. You can do a whole lot of things. And in the early stages, from ideation to a little bit of an acceleration, I would call it proof of concept. Now, where do you go from acceleration to scale up is an interesting question to ask. Sometimes it could be 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 20, 30, 40 crores before you say I'm ready for a scale up. Sometimes it could be a lot smaller than that. A good benchmark is, a basket of customers or a first go to market with minimum product, and you have some idea of what works, what doesn't work. You've sort of got some money into the bank either through the customer or through investors, and now you're ready to systemically look at scale up and strategy, and that's when the scale up happens. And another important point is I've talked about stage one, stage two, and stage three, and we've gone from red, that means very risky, to amber, which is caution, to green, to deep blue. And all of that is because that's how it happens, that as you build a business and you get success, things look very nice to you and you feel good about it and you want to scale it up. The trick from stage one, stage two, and stage three is not to extrapolate. There is a break there from acceleration to stage one. So you have to think differently to grow the business. And we'll talk about some of this in this course. Very often, CEOs, you're probably are the CEO or your founding team, and you want to go from stage one to stage two, and you're in stage one. I mean, there's an arrow there. So you are in stage one for a while, and now you're imagining a very different company. You cannot extrapolate from stage one to stage two and stage two to stage three. You have to imagine a grown-up company. So it's like a 10-year-old child. How will that child look when that child is a teenager? You have to imagine that. So some core remains the same, but you have to imagine that and then work towards bringing stage two to realization and stage three to realization and beyond that. I've just given 3 examples. Typically, one ends up creating a business for eternity. For example, many of us have seen there are family businesses who have stayed for decades together, and people from different generations come in and they run them. Some of them grow, scale up, some of them don't, and that is perfectly fine. And we'll make a call on those things as we go through our course. Some of them exit means you build a company and somebody else acquires you, and that is, or makes a strategic investment, and you're fine with that. The another route which often people talk about, but very few get there, is the initial public offering. What that means is you put your company on a stock market where institutional and retail investors start buying shares in your company, and you make an initial offering. So you dilute the ownership of your company for outside people to buy shares into your company. And often enough, that's when the wealth gets created for the core team, the founders, the investors who have been there through an IPO. Wealth also gets created when somebody else acquires your company, because if you have built the business successfully, obviously value goes up. And when you exit in this manner, that somebody buys you or makes a strategic investment, or it's an initial public offering, that value gets monetized. And if you stay like that and you generate profit, you create jobs, and you keep growing it, and you are an established business, but you've not done either a dilution of your equity or nor have you done an IPO, that's perfectly fine. You decide what you want to do, but there is a proof of concept and then there is a scale up, and proof of concept can be long. Very often young entrepreneurs or many times first timers are very impatient about what it takes to really get a proof of concept to scale up. So you have to determine the timeline. Different businesses have different timelines. It's like different living species have different time to grow, short lifespan to very long lifespan, and businesses are no different. They take different times. And first thing entrepreneurs have to do is to recognize the timeline of your business and work according to that. You don't have to be impatient about it, but at the same time, you need to work fast. And you don't have to be so impatient that you ground your business. None of that works very well. But The journey of an entrepreneur starts from idea, the apple to a grown-up apple, with exit, IPO, staying that way, all of this. So we come to the end of the entrepreneurship course here. Go through it. What we will also do is to bring some real life examples, and some of the founders will share that with you.